Alright, so I'm going to be trying something new here on my DustFilms updates. I'm going to be doing Homemade Movies Flashbacks. Now, that was a show that I did on Cinefix. I haven't asked them if they're okay with me doing this, but I do get a lot of questions all the time, either on YouTube or direct messages on Facebook, asking about how I make videos and about homemade movies. So I don't really get anything out of you watching the videos again on Cinefix, other than I'm super proud of them, and I want you to watch them again because I love everything that we did. I'm so proud of every single frame, of every single shot, of every single episode that I directed. But it does help me a lot if you watch videos here on this channel. So I figured I'll just roll this all into one and take this time to answer a lot of the questions and maybe help more of you with my answers. So let's take a look back at Top Gun. That was our episode that started off a new season. This came out exactly 1 year ago. So I had been doing the show for a whole year already. You know, it started here on this channel with my homemade Man of Steel trailer, and then we did Star Trek Into Darkness, which got retweeted by Simon Pegg, and then Bad Robot, and it was like really cool and became this big thing. And then Cinefix approached me to do the show full-time on a weekly basis for their channel. So I did. I started that with John O'Brien, and it was just the two of us making the show. And it's funny, we get a lot of comments on YouTube. There's at least one per video where someone says, "You guys have a lot of time on your hands." And we're like, yeah, we're not doing it in our spare time. There's no way we'd be able to put out this much content if we were just doing this in our spare time. Nobody has that much spare time. We were super grateful that we get to do it full time. That was like the greatest thing ever. But I mean, it was full time. I say this all the time, I literally didn't have a single day off. It was 7 days a week. There was no downtime whatsoever. We barely got one show out a week. Okay, anyway, fast forward to a year later, we wanted to change things up a bit and not do it once a week. We wanted to do it every other week. So I started a second show on Cinefix. They were awesome enough to give me the chance to do an animated show because I do have a background in animation. So that show was called The Cutting Room, where we did animated deleted scenes, fake deleted scenes for movies. So I started up that show with Jeff Campbell as the animator. So just the two of us worked on that show, and then simultaneously I worked on Homemade Movies just with Ben. So if you're familiar with the behind the scenes, you know that I worked with John O'Brien full-time, and then he moved on to other things, and we had Sean Puglisi full-time as an editor and production help. And then right around our big Star Wars episode with Chris Hardwick, we had Ben Martin come on full-time, just to help with props, wardrobe, all the art stuff. So he took that on as his full-time job. We also had Anthony Bosco here full-time doing kind of production assistance slash producing, helping. So we've had a revolving cast of people coming here to work full-time, and this literally all takes place in my house. It is Homemade Movies. It's no joke. This really is a pretty small house. It looks much bigger on camera with the wide-angle lenses and everything, but this is a tiny house, and we worked here full-time 5 days a week, and then I did all the audio stuff over the weekend myself. So it was getting kind of crazy. It was like we either needed to expand and move into a proper studio slash workshop, or we needed to pare down. So we decided to pare it down and go to every other week. So I had The Cutting Room going with Jeff Campbell animating full-time, and then I had Ben here at the house doing Homemade Movies with me full-time, and that was it. So our first episode with this new system was Top Gun. Started off really smooth. It was just like a lot of the cockpit stuff and then the miniatures, so pretty straightforward to shoot. I did put a lot of thought actually into the look of the show and making sure that we weren't getting too complicated or trying to replicate things too much. It's obviously all shot for shot, but I wanted to make sure that we were making it as simple as possible because it's always going to be shot for shot, but like how many details do we have to get right in every single frame? Because we were kind of killing ourselves getting it so exact. Because when you look at a specific shot, it's hard not to want to do everything exactly the same. But it's like, well, maybe we don't need that background thing, or maybe we don't need this. So one of the things that happened with this new kind of style was making it more homemade. I always say it's like a really crafty kid made everything. So for instance, in this Top Gun scene, instead of matching the look of the clouds and spreading out cotton or doing something like that, like we would have normally done, we just decided to cut out very cartoony cloud shapes out of paper. So it's like just a little bit more simple, like, okay, clouds, we get it. It's all still very complicated, so it didn't end up changing things all that much, but we were more conscious of like how to simplify things. Alright, so some of your questions. Oh, I get asked all the time what camera we use. I've always used a Canon 7D. This is the original 7D, and I've shot everything with it for years and years. Super basic and versatile. Well, I guess it depends on what you call basic. I think it's basic, but it's always on manual. We don't do anything auto, so you can set your exposure levels, your focus, everything is just manually done. We're just going, you know, shooting each shot, replicating as best we can. I also, for the most part, used the stock lens that comes with this kit. When you buy the 7D, you have an option of which lens you want, and it's the EFS 18 to 135, I think it is. It's a zoom lens. So in the show, we're replicating the shots. If you want to get the real cinematic look, like it's a real long lens, you just zoom in and get that shot. If we're trying to cram more people into a small space, we go all the way wide. So it's like you get all these lenses all in one. So if you're starting out and you want to get a kit like that, I totally recommend one of those zoom lenses because it's so versatile. I did get a new lens, finally, my first new lens, when we shot our X-Men scene. But I'll save that for the X-Men episode. Oh, also, before we started this season, I got a GoPro. So that kind of changed the way we did the behind the scenes, which was really fun. In the past, for the whole prior year, we used an old flip cam. If you remember in the Man of Steel behind the scenes, one of them drowned in the pool and got wet and died, so I had to get a new flip cam. They don't make these anymore, so I have to like find them on eBay, and they're only like 30 or 40 bucks. So we always shoot with this silly old flip cam, and I had to super glue a wide angle lens on it so we could actually see more stuff in the room. But anyway, starting with this episode, we have the GoPro, and it's like got a super wide angle, like fisheye, so you can kind of see everything, and it's small and compact and easy to use, and so all the behind the scenes have a new look here, starting with this episode too. Alright, so starting this Top Gun episode with me and Ben. This is like the day after New Year's we started this. Takes 2 weeks to do an episode. The first week, production, pre-production, shooting. The second week is finishing shooting, and then by Wednesday we should be done. And then around lunch on that Wednesday, the plan was we go over to the studio where I had the little setup where we shot all the behind the scenes walkthrough. I would come back, start editing, and I have to do all the sound effects and music, and then Ben would be editing the behind the scenes for Thursday and Friday. So that was kind of our 2-week cycle. So when this episode started, we had just released Fight Club, which was the cutting room episode. So that one had just come out. So then I'm piggybacking this Top Gun production with the next cutting room episode, which was The Matrix. So I tried to use a lot of our same people doing voices for the cutting room, like Piotr Michael, who's amazing. He does all these great impressions, for instance. So I try and schedule it so he could come in and do VOs for the cutting room, and then when we're done with that, he could knock out a couple shots for Homemade Movies if he happened to be in that episode. So kind of 2 birds with 1 stone. Should be crossing these off as I go. Alright, so other questions. James on Facebook has asked where we get a lot of our materials. Cardboard, props, wardrobe. So cardboard is interesting. I've never bought cardboard, not once in my entire life. And I've moved a lot too. There's always cardboard behind grocery stores. Like, it's out in the dumpsters. I used to just go and kind of pillage through the dumpsters and get all kinds of great cardboard and boxes that way. So when we started Homemade Movies, my wife Priscilla actually worked in retail, and they get shipments all the time. So she was able to bring home a lot of cardboard. So that's the secret of the cardboard. When she stopped working at that store, we would just ask friends who either still worked there or worked in other stores, hey, can we come by this week and grab some cardboard? Or if you lived in an apartment complex, there's always cardboard out in the recycling bin. People are buying tons of stuff from IKEA, and it comes in big boxes. John used to grab stuff from his apartment and bring it, and then Ben used to bring a bunch of stuff from where he lives. If somebody moved in next door, there'd be like a massive amount of cardboard. So Ben would just grab that and bring it over. So that lasted us for a long time too. If it's toys, it comes from a toy store or wherever. You can just buy it new, but we try and always buy all the miscellaneous stuff from thrift stores. All the wardrobe too. We're just matching the outfits, and sometimes you have to paint the clothes afterwards to make them the right color, but hopefully they're the right color already. And then of course we have the attic, which is filled with boxes and boxes and boxes of clothes and props. So you can see that in one of my DustFilms updates. I give you a little tour of the attic. So we pick through that first, and then whenever we don't have, we go to the thrift store and find. So like in this Top Gun episode, we needed some of these helmets, and we wanted to use the same type of helmets that we used in our Star Wars episodes. And those are like baseball helmets. I said football helmets, I think, in the behind the scenes, and people corrected me. Those worked out great, but I guess it's like not the right season for those to be at the thrift store. So all we could find is bicycle helmets. I mean, you could spend days looking for the right thing, but we don't have days. We have to like make these and paint them and shoot it, so we just have to go with what we have. So we bought the bike helmets and we made those work. Alright, so Caleb on Facebook would like to know what the budget was like for each episode. This is a question I get a lot. Aside from paying ourselves, whoever happens to be working on this full time, the budget for the production of the episode is pretty small. We after doing it for a year, we knew we didn't spend a lot because it's just like a handful of toys, a handful of things from the thrift store, and then paying whatever other actors show up. Or if we need someone, like we need Bosco to show up for a day and help us shoot a whole scene, pay him for coming for the day or for half a day or whatever. And then actors, if they're here for a whole day or if they're here for a half day. But I will say that some of these actors are so awesome. You know, Piotr, Chris, Kat, just to name a few of our regulars. They would show up sometimes just to be in a shot or 2 or 3 for free because they're they're awesome like that, and they know that we have a small budget, so they just loved being part of it and being part of the show, so thank you guys for doing that. That's so awesome. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Just materials alone, each episode could range from like $50 to like $100 or $150. I think our Hook episode was maybe the most expensive because there were so many props and costumes to be made. Yeah, it was really kind of a wide range, but I mean, you can do it for cheap because part of the point is using what you have around, which in this case means all of our past costumes and props that we can kind of reconfigure and make into new things. But we didn't really have to buy a whole lot sometimes for these episodes. Oh nice, the gardeners are starting now, so it's gonna get really loud. Okay, on YouTube, a Wilder Mode pointed out that in an F-14, both people in the cockpit would be facing the same direction. We did it the wrong way. I think we were thinking more in terms of like Star Wars when they're both facing different directions. You got the gunner in the back and the pilot up front. So you're correct. We did it wrong. In the end of the episode, it's actually Priscilla who's sitting behind me because Ben is holding the camera. A lot of times when it's just me and Ben here shooting by ourselves, it's tricky to have enough hands to do everything. Like holding the cameras and flashing lights and lighting things on fire and pulling props and strings and whatever. So whenever Priscilla's not working, we'd pull her in, or we'd ask Sean to run over and help us out. And he was always really helpful. He would come over at a moment's notice and help us do any manner of crazy thing. Also on YouTube, Bava Mario came to the realization that real actors didn't actually fly the planes in the movie. You're correct. That's one of the fun things about making movies, is that the actors get to pretend that they're doing these fun and crazy things. And even though it's on a much smaller scale, that was part of the fun of doing homemade movies as well, is because even though we're using homemade techniques and cardboard and sheets for the sky and all this kind of cheap stuff, the process itself is not all that different. We're doing inserts of flying planes. In our case, it's toys. In their case, it's real planes and jets. And then we have us as the actors sitting in a pretend cockpit, pretending that we're flying the plane, just doing this. So when we're doing a lot of these scenes where it shows people driving or flying, or like the Star Wars scenes or this Top Gun scene, it's not that unlike the way they really shot the movies, and that's part of the love that I have for movies, is getting to pretend and use your imagination and create something that looks real that totally isn't. Alright, so something that I did not talk about in the behind the scenes, which is actually kind of a big deal that happened that I didn't talk about on Facebook at all, is that 2 days before this episode came out, my computer crashed and my drive crashed, and I lost everything I was working on at that moment. And we had to re-edit and redo all the audio for this episode the day before it came out. So we were done shooting on time, I finished editing, Ben had already finished the behind the scenes by Friday evening. We'd be delivering the episode to Cinefix that following Monday, so it comes out first thing Tuesday morning. Saturday, I spent the whole day recording music and audio. Saturday night, I was having some glitches and issues, and I restarted my computer, and it did not start up again. And that happens from time to time. Usually you can just kind of fight through it and restart it and you go, okay, that was weird, it started up. But this time, it did not start up. I could not recover. I don't want to have a big Mac versus PC discussion, but I use Windows, I always have. Totally, entirely different subject. I've edited in Premiere for over 10 years on PC. That's just my system. I'm very, very fast. I have to use a lot of programs, and I'm lightning fast in all of them, and I don't want to switch over to using a Mac. Not because they're not good at computers and they're good at graphics and blah blah blah. For my workflow, I'm just so much faster on PC. Anyway, beside the point. I've never ever had this happen. I've been heavily using computers since the early 90s. Never once have I had a problem this catastrophic where it couldn't recover somehow. Windows recovery mode, anything. It's just like this awful screen saying like, there's nothing I can do. Total complete panic. Went to bed, figured, okay, I'll mess with it tomorrow. Spent the whole day Sunday on the phone with Dell, trying to figure it out. They're saying, oh, we gotta send you this boot disk, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, I called Ben, I called Cinefix, I'm freaking out. This is our first episode out with the new season. We gotta get it done. Now, other side note, I have stuff backed up, but we were so in the middle of it and we were so comfortable with doing this show for the year that we've been doing it, that I didn't have the stuff I was currently working on that day backed up. That's totally my fault. But again, like in all the years that I've been using computers, I'm very lucky. Personally, I've never had a drive fail or have a computer crash like this, so I just gotten very complacent and had not gotten in a good habit of like backing up like every second. Also, it's a home PC system and we just kind of started doing the show and it just kind of took off, so I don't have like this amazing system with like all these backup drives and stuff. I do now. Because of this. So basically the finished edit that I had done and all the music that I had done that day was not accessible because it was all on a local drive. This is all just bad computing habits that led to this. But we had to get the episode out, so all we had was a low resolution file that I had in Dropbox for reference that I had sent to Ben. He was gracious enough to spend his entire Sunday re-editing the episode based on my first cut, the low resolution cut, using all the existing original footage, which of course we still had, thank goodness, totally backed up. So he re-edited the whole thing on top of my edit, made a full edit. I had to redo the sound on like a 4-year-old laptop that I happened to have, and I managed to like use some rinky-dink system and like the little microphone in jack and re-recorded the music from scratch. All the sound effects. Running back and forth to Sean's house too, by the way, and he was helping us out. Here's the files, here's this, putting it all back together at the last minute, and we got it out Monday, and then started on Tuesday with the next episode, which is RoboCop. Basically not having a computer, which was like the most insane thing. You just get so used to everything working fine. It was like my entire world just like turned upside down. The rug got pulled out from under us, and I had no computer, had no access. I had to wait for this boot disk. This is, I guess, part of next week's story with RoboCop. This is all probably very boring, by the way, if you're still watching. But it was a big deal. It was something I had to deal with production, and the show must go on. So we made it happen. We started shooting RoboCop immediately. So you'll have to stay tuned 2 weeks from now when I tell the story of the RoboCop production, but I will let you know it was not pretty, and I dealt with this computer issue for 3 or 4 months, and I still had nightmares about it. So in 2 weeks, I'll do another flashback update and tell about that production. So send in your questions, ask me whatever you want to know that I didn't already cover in the behind the scenes. Anything else about production in general that you want to know and how I do things, and I will answer that in the next one. We've got one more question here from Gene Ponce. He wants to know what my favorite color is. Well, Gene, I don't exactly have one favorite color. Growing up, it was always red, but these days, for the past 10 or 15 years or so, I've been obsessed with black and white. Not grayscale like black and white photos, but just black and white. You can look at my website design and my logo like this. Specifically, white on black. So there you go. Alright, so thank you guys for all your questions on Facebook and your YouTube comments, and for that, riveting question from Gene Ponce. Yeah, stay tuned for more DustFilms updates, and I'll keep you updated on what I'm working on. And yeah, ask me your production questions, and I'll try and answer them. Alright, see you soon. That was really boring, wasn't it? Alright, sorry.